Okay, so we are going to show you the setup and the early aspects of the game to get ready to play 1490 Doom. Now, a Doom company is only allowed to have 3 models or 3 warriors in it. When you choose a Doom company, you choose 3 different profiles, like fighter. Like I could say, this guy has a great axe, 2-handed. I'll say he's a brute. This looks like a scavenger. He's got a little hammer pick thing. And I'll say this is a fighter. Okay, so that would be my Doom company. I would pick one as a captain. He would get an extra improvement point to improve like a stat or something, and then he would get a free reroll during the game. So he would be my captain. I'm arbitrarily choosing him. And then I have 2 more improvement points. I could give him like a canister of creeping death. It's like a grenade, and I can give him a shield, which protects him from being pushed off high. So that would be a quick example of a Doom company.
An important thing to know is the reason that Eric, when building his Doom company, didn't take multiples of the same warriors is because you can't. It is a restriction in this game that you can't take 2 brutes or 3 brutes and call that your Doom company. We feel that this adds a lot of variety to the game. As you're playing, each individual warrior has their own personality and abilities.
That's right. Okay, so once we have our Doom companies, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to deploy. Okay, now deployment is quite simple. If someone has a scout, the only thing the scout can deploy 4 inches in. Otherwise, every other model will start off the board. The scout is the only exception, because the scout obviously is good at fast movement and going places.
So in this case, let's say that I won the roll-off to see who deployed first.
Yeah, we just roll a d6 to see who goes first.
Because there are no models yet placed against the edge of the board, I can choose anywhere I'd like, which I'll choose here with my scout. And because I chose this position, no model, including my own, may be closer than 5 inches from where I deployed.
Yeah,
So now that it's Eric's turn.
So I could put a brute here and then chase him in. So I would have to start 5 inches away. So,
And you may ask, why is it that your own models aren't able to start this close? Well, there's a narrative reason. It's because we felt, as we discussed, even if a Doom company was together, when they eyed a safe haven and location, the entire land is covered in a creeping death, a fog that would obscure vision enough that even the most skilled Doom companies might only come this close together when making their aim.
So we alternate between placing. Now he said this was a scout, so he would actually be able to move 4 inches in for deployment.
Correct.
And so, so we would go 5 inches, and I'd place the guy over here, and that's how you do deployment. So the next thing after deployment is the placement of resource caches. Okay. Now on a normal scenario, and there are some scenarios that tell you different, but on a standard scenario, there's going to be 3 resource caches, and we just use something like this: crates. You can use a piece of paper if that's all you have that says cache on it. Something like this is super cool. It's thematic. So this is the basic rule. 1 resource cache will always be placed on the highest piece of terrain, right in the center, as close to the center as possible. So this is the tallest piece of terrain, but this is the tallest piece of terrain to play on. As you can see, models can't stand on this roof. This would be the high ground. So the first one goes there. The way to place the other 2 is pretty simple. What we want to do is we want to just eye the board and put it into 4 quadrants, okay? So we would agree that, okay, the line's going to go like this, and let's say this is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Correct.
And then you would roll a dice to place one. So what he's going to do is roll, let's see what quadrant. So the second quadrant would be right here. What he does is he takes a resource cache, and he gets to place it anywhere in the second quadrant between 4 and 6 inches from the center. So he'd measure from the center of the board. It's kind of like a ring.
Right.
He gets to choose wherever he wants to put it.
And I'm going to choose, since this barrier is right around 6 inches away, we're just going to nestle it in right there on that tower.
Right. And then I would do the same thing. I would roll. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I would have got a 5 or 6, I would just roll until it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now mine's in the 4th quadrant. And I noticed, ooh, I like that I'm here. So I'm going to place mine right here. Now, something to note, you always do resource cache after you deploy. The reason is we don't want to place resource caches and then deploy close to them. We want to make it more random. And so you deploy first and then you do resource cache. And now we're ready to roll for initiative to start turns and rounds.
Correct. And once the initiative has been determined, the game will begin. But we real quick want to note why these resource caches are so important. Let's say during the game, my scout is able to scale this ladder and come up next to this resource cache to try to open it. So he would roll a skill check, and in this case, he would pass.
His skills check is a 4-up, so he passes.
Correct. And warriors have different skill checks, therefore their ability to open doors and to climb certain things and open resource caches might be different.
For example, the brute is a 6 on his skill. He's
Correct.
terrible, he's clumsy.
Right, he's a very, very clumsy fella, so he's not very delicate with these potentially rotting resources or potentially delicate resources. But if we have a resource cache opened, we roll on the resource cache table to find out where that is contained. So I rolled a 2. A 2
would be food,
which is a very, very useful resource that grants you, the turn that you expend it, 1 extra action. And many, many other resources are contained within these resource caches, 6 to be precise, that can give you a huge leg up in the middle of a game with an item that you didn't expect.
So the scout successfully opened the resource cache, you would take that and keep that there and then write down what he had. He has food that he can use later on in the game to give him an extra action in a turn. Some other things, I'm not going to say everything. There's a cloak, there's herbs and tonic, there's a map, among other things. So there's 6 possible things you can open in the resource cache, which gives you huge bonuses during the game. Now, something to note, the high ground is a very important way to win the game, but also whoever opens the most resource caches gets a victory point. So there's 2 victory points for the high ground, 1 victory point for whoever collects the most resource caches, and 1 victory point for whoever has the most models alive by the end of rounds.
Right. So given all of this information, we think it's about time that we move on to climbing.